Welcome to today's webinar. The topic is the power of batching and print layouts. Sounds a bit of a boring technical topic, but actually it's one of the keys to mass customization. So let's start with what is the difference. So a print layout is kind of as the name suggests and as the diagram shows here. It is when you have a product with more than one print area and you wish to display that, or not display, but lay it out, as the name suggests, for printing in a different way. So here's an example of a greetings card where I'm printing page 1 and page 4 next to each other, page 2 and page 3 next to each other. I'm printing all of that on one sheet. So that's a print layout, as we call it. Now, a batch template is when we're taking multiple products and laying them out on a single template. So to enable us to do a production run of multiple orders in one. So hopefully that makes sense in terms of what the difference is between a print layout and a batch template. Now, why are they important? A lot of people maybe have already switched off. Well, they're critical really, because mass customization, as the name suggests, is about applying the principles of mass production to personalized products, which are orders of one. So you have to get the efficiency that mass production gives you, but still supplying orders in a batch of one. And obviously the only way to make this an economic reality is for technology to take away the manual work. So the work normally that people would do, laying out and batching. So both print layouts and batching help reduce these processes. So if you're in marketing, I guess by this point you've turned off, but if you're a business owner or in production, this is fundamental to making the mass customization business model work. So let's have a look at a few common applications. So for a print layout, the one I've already explained, a multi-sided product like a greetings card. Most printers that print on-demand greetings cards, and obviously that's a big market all around the world, and has changed that marketplace, would like the products laid out for them, so literally they can put individual orders through their machines, kind of bang, 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 just keep going as if it was 1,000 of the same product. And we'll talk about how that's possible later on, but a print layout enables you to lay a multi-sided product in any way. Then you've got layered products, which you can do with a print layout. A good example would be a phone skin where you've got a front and a back. And you also then might have a cut line around it. So if you've got a cutting machine as part of the process, it does the cutting at the same time as the printing. And again, you don't want any manual setup. You just want to shoot them through the system one after another. Another interesting option where you might have print layouts is when you've got folded point of sale products. So they're not all printed, in a logical order. Some might be upside down, some might be sideways, and you might want to print them out so when folded they look right. So folded products would need a print layout. Multi-part products, as we discussed, so more than just sides, but if there's an example would be one year we set up a Christmas letter pack for people that on the same product had a door hanger, a poster, etc. And quite often that's useful to print on the same sheet. Pattern products is an interesting one. We're doing a fair bit of work now in creating clothing, etc. So obviously when you print an item of clothing, you may print out a pattern that somebody cuts out and sews together. And again, that will need a layout sorting. And then basically a product just needing more details for production, you can add extra things with print layouts. So there's lots of useful uses for print layouts. For production batches, really it's where you've got a printer that's got a large tray or roll-to-roll or wide format. An example would be, one of our customers when they got busy this Christmas was using their wide format printer to print out their transfers for phone cases because they were getting, and we were giving them in batches of 100 instead of, normally they were doing in batches of 6. So they were able to print a lot more at one go. So production batching is a very useful thing for just grabbing individual orders and putting them through. So any product really that prints on a printer that can cope with compiling them together. Products that also need to be sent to specific departments. So print batching is quite intelligent. It can say, this is a mug, it needs to go to the mug department. This is a phone case, it needs to go to the UV printing machine. So if you like, production batches uses logic to send products to different departments automatically. Products that need a bespoke job sheet. So production batching, as we'll show you in a minute, has lots of elements you can add. So you can create your own bespoke job sheet, really. So anything you want to put on, you can put on with the artwork. Products where the artwork supplies need some post-processing, e.g. size. This is quite an interesting one. If you took an example of a phone case, you might only have one design for a phone case, but there are 40 different sizes and shapes of phone cases. And when you're marketing, you perhaps don't want to create a product for each one. So you create some generic artwork in the right format. And then when it comes in, the system can say, right, this is for an iPhone 7, and resize the artwork appropriately for that iPhone 7. So there's no manual work again. And then products that need an extra option. So a typical example was if you're going to print a sublimation transfer, and apologies if that's too technical, but some people will know what I mean. You need to flip the artwork before you print it. So it's useful, again, if the software does that and a production batch can do that. Or if you're printing on a UV printer, sometimes it needs a white layer. So again, it's useful if the software can add that to you. Those functions are often done by RIP software, but as more and more people get into this market, you are finding that quite often people want the system to generate it for them. So that's where we come in. So hopefully that's clear. Those are some of the common applications for why you need print layouts and print batches. Now, we can just create normal artwork and give it to you, and you may have systems that can do all of these things anyway. What we're trying to show with Custom Gateway is we've thought about this mass customization business, and we aim to give you the artwork so you don't have to touch it. So both systems, both print layouts and print batching, have these useful features. So both of them can have crop marks added. Crop marks are generally used when you're cutting afterwards, as I've mentioned as well, and we'll talk about again. We can do cut lines for automatic cutters, but often you want cut marks. Many people want color registration marks, as you can see on the right-hand side, to make sure, their printers are calibrated properly each time. So you can put those on. Barcodes is a whole topic on its own, but we can put a barcode anywhere in a print layout or a print batch, and then within our workflow system, you can scan to do just about anything. So they're really useful. And then we've mentioned them earlier, but both options can do repositioning of artwork. So just because it looked portrait on the screen, it doesn't mean it has to print portrait. So both systems can automatically move the artwork that way. And it's only at the moment the batching system that can resize, not the print layout. So they're basically things you can add. And as I've mentioned, with the batch template, you can set up anything, which I'll show you in a minute. And with the print layout, you've got a fair bit of flexibility too. So we can talk advanced print layouts in a minute. Let's just go and take a quick look at a print layout. So in simple terms, once you've set up a product in a system, you can then create a layout. That layout has a name, and then within that layout, the multi-sided things. So you have the different sides here. If I chose to go in and edit this now, so this product has a front and a back, and I set the front and the back out, and then I give the front and the back coordinates on where I want to go on the print layout. I'm not going to demonstrate that particularly now, just to show you, obviously that's how much flexibility you've got. So you can choose a rotation in degrees, choose the area which it is, and plop that on your print layout. Now, if we go and look at a batch template, that's a lot more sophisticated. So on a batch template, we can first of all say what machine it goes to, what country. So we can even route things by country. We can say which particular products are suitable for that batch template. So on the print layout, we're applying it to the product itself. Here, we're just saying the batch template can grab any product from anywhere. We can choose the output types, both of those. We can use raster, raster alternative, or vector. We can decide how many pages it is. So sometimes people, we've done hundreds of pages before if you were printing transfers or books or all sorts of different things. You can decide how many sides. So another useful scenario is if you're printing something that's front and back, you could print 10 fronts and then have another template that had 10 backs. So you'd better flip something and turn it. So we've thought of these things. You can decide whether you need a cover sheet on a batch and whether you have individual details of the images so you can scan them. You can set it up so it sends to a particular printer. So we use the Google Cloud Print infrastructure so it goes straight to a printer within your manufacturing environment. And then you can see on here, you've got a lot more flexibility in the positions that you can use. So not only have you got the X and Y coordinates like you have with the print layout and the rotation, you've got the scaling option, you've got the flipping option, you've got a cropping option, and you can even decide, which is why I was saying you can create your own bespoke sheets, what elements of the job you want to display. Right down to size, attributes, name of the product, name of the customer, shipping methods, order date, company name. So you've got a huge amount of flexibility, and you can even then decide you can have different batching templates for different customers if they had different requirements. So you've got down the bottom the ability to do it, and obviously because you're setting these up, you've got a test. So it's obviously quite an in-depth area, and all I'm really trying to do here is give you a quick overview of it. So if we switch back now to looking at here, advanced prints layer, we call these artwork slots or layers. And there's a few different bits on here. You can choose an artwork type, as we discussed, raster or vector. You can choose a fit mode for the artwork, so how it applies itself to the area. This is quite useful. I've mentioned it already. You can add cut lines. So if you've got an automatic cutting machine, you can do that. And you can also add other backgrounds or markings, like we talked about, color registration, crop marks, even logos if you want. And this is a new feature, which again is really a whole topic in its own, but you can replicate regions. So you can do things like mirrored canvases and take one part of the artwork and replicate it in another area. Just really wanted to give you a flavor for the complexity of what's available. And then the other thing that's worth just whizzing through, and we've looked at some of them, is actually what are the business applications for the batching system? And we've covered most of these, and obviously this video can be followed up with some more in-depth training, but we've got adding artwork for products of the same type. That's the main use for batching. But you can also allocate products to the correct machine, area, country. You can update ORSA status. So whenever you download a batch, it will always send it to in production so the customer can be informed, adding the barcodes we've talked about. So you can scan it off at various points. Auto resize artwork, add layer to the PDF. So I guess I'm not going to repeat all of these things for you now. I'm hoping that you've got an idea of the different things you can do with the system and the flexibility. I think also it's quite useful. You can move orders around and put them into different print things. I guess what would be quite useful to show you is, and this is a sneaky preview for you of version 2 of the OMS system, the new batching system. So if I were to click on there now, what it allows you to do is any production operative can just see the batches. The batches have statuses, and then within the batches, it shows you the status of each one. They can either be synchronized with your hot folder. You could rework it if it was messed up. You could print the job sheet, or you could simply just push the artwork each time for your machine. So it's a very nice and simple screen to use. And then you have scan points where you can display a job, dispatch a job, update the status of a job. just by scanning as the scan points go. So again, the whole management of a production environment is a big topic. And if I click to my last slide, so if you've got your mobile phone ready, you could be zapping this QR code off the screen. Or we're happy to send out copies of this. There's a link to what we call the full OMS user guide, which is, a few hundred pages of information about this sort of thing. But hopefully I've achieved my objective here, which was to explain to you the difference between print layouts and batch templates and why they're critical for the mass customization business model. If you have any more questions, please do go to custom-gateway.com and we'll be able to provide answers to all your questions on mass customization. Thanks for listening.